welcome to Move Better Every Day. Today we're looking at the movement pattern of sit to stand, which basically ends up being a squat, but because we're moving better every day and it's just looking at your everyday movement patterns, ultimately we would like to be able to do a deep squat, but we're just going to start from sitting in a chair and standing. That basic, basic movement pattern that we do every day. So I've got a nice sturdy chair here. Ideally, when we're doing some exercise, you don't want something that's too comfortable. You want something that's a little bit firmer. So this old wooden chair is perfect. We're going to be doing some work where I want you to think about your sit bones as where they feel on the chair. So if you've got a really padded seat, that won't work quite so well. So here we go. So sitting up nice and tall on your chair. Maybe sit a little bit forwards, because I don't want you to be slumping back into the back of the chair. I want you to sit quite forwards. And then we're going to start, as always, I've realised every one of these starts with this movement, with reaching up, because it's so important. So both arms are up, you're looking up, and then you're just taking a little lift one side, sort of down the side seam of your torso, and you're aiming to lift and lengthen out from just above your waistband, either side of your spine, through to that middle finger at the top. So lifting up and then lifting the other side. It looks like I'm doing a great big side bend. It's not really a side bend, it's much more of a lift. So I'm trying to lengthen my spine. I'm going to hold both arms up, stay looking up, everything's a little bit scrunched up, as in shoulders up around my ears, ribs flaring a little bit, and then I'm going to let the arms lower and lower my eye line. But now I feel like my spine is lifted and lengthened as much as it can be. And then I would like you to keep that lift of the rib cage off of the hips especially, place your hands on your shoulders and take some big elbow circles. So again, a movement I do all the time in my classes. It feels great, and all of this stuff is to counteract our everyday rubbish posture, where we sit, where we compress in the spine, we collapse down. Even when we're walking, we don't necessarily lengthen the spine. Everything becomes forward head carriage, shoulders around it. So we want to try and change that. I'm just going to turn slightly sideways on the chair as well, and just show you that I'm shifting my rib cage forwards and backwards. And as you do this, so it will depend on the size of the circle that you take your elbows round. If you keep it quite small, this is a small circle with the elbows, not really doing much, bit of a waste of time. If you're going to do it, do it. So bring those elbows forwards, push your upper back backwards, lift your elbows up as high as you can, pin your elbows back, shift the rib cage forwards. This is the really important bit, and then draw those shoulders down. Notice, especially if you're sitting on a reasonably hard surface on your chair, or hard seat on the chair, is there a little bit of a shift forwards and backwards? Can you feel your sit bones? If you've got a solid wooden chair like me, you probably can a little bit, and that's good. I want you to actually feel that. Then let's just keep the hands on the shoulders and the elbows out to the side. So like you're pulling your elbows from one wall, both elbows in opposite directions. So they're being pulled from one side to the other. And just from there, take your hands up, put palms towards the front of your body, if you like, and then just take your hands behind your head. And I'm not trying to clasp my fingers, I'm trying to continue to pull elbows out opposite sides, and I'm just placing my hands at the back of my head and feeling that I'm really drawing my shoulder blades down in my back. And then bring your hands back just to touch your shoulders. So the elbows are up. This might be quite uncomfortable for you, but it's really important to have the chest lifted when we start to do, especially when we start to do squats. But equally, when we're going from this movement, when we're using this movement of sitting to standing and reversing it, we tend to collapse. So we collapse, we put our hands on our legs, the knees roll in, it all goes horribly wrong. The point of this class today, this session today, a little mini workshop, so it's not sort of set in stone, it's just an idea for you to explore some of these movements, is to groove the perfect movement pattern so that when you start to do this movement all day, every day, which we do anyway, even getting in and out of your car, the good movement patterns are there, the good habits are there because you're aware of them. So one more time, hands on the shoulders, elbows up, feel like you're pulling your elbows in opposite directions, and then just bring your hands up, so sort of thumbs to your ears. Put your thumbs in your ears, there's a picture, and then do that. It's got nothing to do with this class whatsoever. And then take the hands to the back of the head. But now, and then let's lift the shoulders. Lift the shoulders up. This feels awful. Now draw the shoulders down. It sort of feels like this. The shoulder blade is sliding down and round. It's going nice and flat against the rib cage wall at the back. And that, bearing in mind that rib cage is quite rounded, so that's where it should be. And feel the muscles that you're using. Not so much to lift up, because you're probably overusing them anyway, but feel the muscles that you use to draw down. You're engaging around your shoulder blades, your serratus, anterior, all those muscles which we want to keep the chest nice and open. Okay, great. Let's have a little look at pelvis. Let's warm the pelvis up, because in order to come down into a deep squat, you want your hips especially to be nice and warm and mobile. So let's just start with taking a pelvic tilt. In fact, I'm going to turn my chair at a slight angle. In fact, I'm going to go completely sideways to start with. So completely sideways. This is me sitting. So sit forwards at the front of your chair. As I said, don't be back here. Sit right up on those sit bones. Have a little rock from side to side. So feeling one, lifting the other one up. In fact, let's start with that movement, so I don't need to be for the side for that. Let's just go side to side, and in order to lift that hip up, pushing down into the foot and the floor, I've just lifted my heel up as well, but that's fine, shortening in the waist. So if you look down at your knees now, your knees are going to be at the same height. They're going to be level with each other. They're not changing one forwards and one backwards. You're lifting from side to side. So we're working on this sideways plane, if you like. Then let's work on a front to back plane. Now I'm going to go back to sideways. So sitting up nice and tall. I'm in a good neutral pelvis. And then I'm going to tuck my pelvis under. Just take my hands out of the way just to show so you can see. And then sit right upright. And I'm exaggerating it a little bit. I'm overarching. So I'm going forwards of my sit bones and then rolling back past the sit bones, behind the sit bones, but essentially tilting the pelvis. This is my focus, tucking under with that pelvis, feeling what's going on around the sit bones, and also noticing that when I'm tucked under and tilted back in that pelvis and the lower back, it makes my upper back collapse. Although I'm not really collapsing, I'm allowing it to round, because then I can get the maximum pelvic tilt, if that makes sense. So tilting forwards. If this hurts you, if this is uncomfortable, then don't do it. You don't need to go over that way, but we do need this movement. And it's just finding your end range of motion, really. So we've tilted forwards and backwards. We've lifted to the side. Now I'd like you to try and rotate. So if you just have your hands on your legs, you don't need to try it, so it's not that difficult, but think of rotating around your spine. So your spine is this central line, it's not changing. So I'm not shifting over like I did before on the last one. I'm rotating. My spine is staying in the middle, but now as you look down, if you've got your hands on your knees, you've got one knee quite a way ahead of the other knee, and then you pull that one back. So there's a bit of pushing and pulling. Use the floor. So rotation, really important. Shoulders are joining in a little bit, but not much. Your goal with the shoulders and the chest and the upper body is to stay nice and upright. So that's the ways that we can move the pelvis. In fact, let's do one more. So let's take a circle all the way around. So tuck your pelvis under. Go round one sit bone. Come forwards of both sit bones. Come to your equally weighted in the middle. Go round the outside of the other sit bone and come to the back, tucked under again. Go round the same direction. Let's do 2 or 3 in the same direction. And your rib cage and your head and shoulders are sort of riding on your pelvic movement, if you like. Let's go the other way. So tuck under, go round, forwards, round the other side. You might find that one direction is a little bit uncomfortable. You might also find that one side is a bit tight, or you're sort of cutting the corner on one part of your circle. Absolutely fine, just exploring, just noticing. Brilliant, okay. So, pelvic tilts, pelvic circles, hitching and a bit of rotation. Getting that whole pelvis nicely warmed up. Hopefully from the initial lifting the arms up in the air, lifting the rib cage off, you were able to do all that movement. So now we're going to come into the actual movement of the workshop, which is sitting to standing. So in order for that to happen, what I'd like you to do is have your feet nice and wide, turn your feet and your knees out. 2 minutes to the hour, 2 minutes past the hour. So not completely parallel. This is me completely parallel. I'm going slightly out, but with the feet and the knees and the ankles, really, really important. And then keeping that spine in good alignment. I'm right up on my sit bones. I'm in a neutral spine. I'm just going to hinge forwards and then come upright again. So hinging forwards. Again, I'm going to turn my chair completely sideways so that you can see. So I'm sitting upright, I'm in my neutral spine, head is over the rib cage, is over the pelvis. I'm going to hinge forwards. Now I've got jeans on, but they're stretchy jeans, they're my cheating jeans. So you're going to feel quite a lot of compression in here, where the thigh meets the torso, and that's where you want to feel it. In fact, dig your fingers in and get your fingers crushed. So your tummy, your torso is crushing your fingers because you're digging into that dip, and you're trying to meet your thighs and your belly, if you like, together. It might not be that difficult, depends on how big the belly is, but then coming up. But the focus is hinging at the hip. Now look at the shape of my spine. It's absolutely not changing at all. So as I said before, our habit generally, if we're going to stand up, would be to round the back, I'm exaggerating it, pitch forwards and then come up. And then we would do the same in reverse. We would collapse the back, sit the bottom back and then come up. We're trying to avoid that. So now I want you to just, in fact, take your arms forwards. Take your arms forwards and palms up and make it a sort of 45-degree angle. So here, there would be 90, this is 45-degree angle. Palms are up and forwards, and then push your palms back the other way. Make a 45-degree angle behind your back. Watch when you do this that the shoulder doesn't tip forwards. Don't allow your back to collapse. So open up that collarbone. So you're sweeping the arms forwards, turning the palms, sweeping the arms back. Sweeping the arms forwards, and just notice hopefully that your collarbone's staying beautifully still. Sweep forwards, sweep back. Great. So you're going to take a hip hinge forwards. So you're sitting at the front edge of your chair. You're going to bring your arms forwards, but keep them nice and low. Keep them at that 45-degree angle, and just come off the chair. Little pulse. Hopefully you'll notice that your weight goes into your heels. Your knees are over your toes. You've got that nice wide stance. Nothing has really changed. Just go slightly at an angle. So legs are wide, 2 minutes to, 2 minutes past the hour with the toes and the knees. Don't go too crazy with the turnout, just a little bit, just to allow a bit more hinging at the hip. So So you're hinging forwards, you're bringing those arms forwards, you're getting your butt off of the seat, and you're just taking your weight into your heels, you're sitting your bottom down, and you're coming upright and push the arms back. So arms forwards, hinge forwards, butt off, drop the butt down, come back upright with your chest and push the arms back. Try not to, and it's difficult when you're swinging the arms, so try not to use momentum to let this happen. So I would like you to be really controlled. So you're hinging forwards as far as you can, you're dropping that, taking the butt off of the chair, but you're pretty much staying at the same height, drop down and come back. You might be feeling a little bit uncomfortable in that lower back, absolutely fine, as long as your spine is in its neutral position, as long as these knees and legs, knees are in good alignment, your legs are supporting you, this is going to be safe. If it's feeling uncomfortable, then maybe just leave it for another time. But this is actually the bare minimum of us sitting down on a dining room chair and getting back up again. So we're going to add on. You're going to pitch forwards, the arms are coming forwards, take the weight into the heels, get your bottom off, stand, straighten the legs, just drive your hips forwards, bring the arms back, sweep the arms forwards, send your bottom back. You've just come up from that position, the chair hasn't moved, hopefully, and then you've sat down and you're seated upright and pushing the arms back, unless you've got some very naughty children or little elves living in your house who've come and taken that chair away. Hopefully it's still there. So keep your feet a little bit closer to the chair legs if you're feeling a bit vulnerable. If this doesn't feel right, especially lowering, it's the so from a chair like this, coming up, standing up is really quite easy. Sitting down again is a little bit scary if you're not used to this. So make it a little bit higher by putting a cushion on it. And here's one I prepared earlier. So it's quite a squidgy cushion actually, so it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. But hinge forwards from the hips, take the butt off, stand, send the butt back, drop your hips down and come upright. Forwards, come upright, there and down. Brilliant. Okay, so what have we got next? Yes, okay, so hopefully that should be relatively comfortable. It's a bit robotic, if you like, obviously, because what we're trying to do, we're trying to do an exercise, we're trying to do it perfectly, so it's not like everyday life. You're not going to get out of your dining room chair like that every time and sit back down again. You're certainly not going to do it on your settee, which is a little bit lower, more comfy and squidgy and all the rest of it. But what it's doing, if the more you groove these patterns, is it makes it become a natural movement, it makes it become a good habit. So that if I'm sitting at my dining room table working away, as a lot of us are doing at the moment, when we're working from home, and then I go to get up, I'm going to turn, and so I've turned to the side. You might put my hand on the back of the chair, but essentially my legs aren't in that perfect position, but I'm still going to do the same thing. I'm going to hinge forwards on my hips. This is my sort of leading leg, if you like, and then I'm going to come up and stand and go away. When I'm sitting back down, I'm going to, same thing, send the bottom back, knees are over the toes. So just do this a little bit for me. Go, move around in your chair, stand up and sit down again. So the legs can be straddled front to back. If you've got a skirt on, the whole idea of this sort of thing is that you're practicing these movements in your working clothes, in your everyday clothes. So there's the same thing. One leg in front of the other, hinge from the hips, keep the chest up, drive through the feet to come up, and then coming back down again, send the bottom back. So my habit, I've noticed myself, is to put my hands on my legs. That's not ideal. I don't need my hands, but what I see a lot of is the hands on the legs and then the pushing. You don't want to be pushing, and you absolutely don't want the knees to be rolling in and collapsing. So we want that good alignment, basically. Brilliant. Okay, so we have done just sitting from a normal chair and getting back up again. So this and this workshop was meant to be about, or it's about sitting to standing and the squat pattern. One of my clients said to me she really struggles to get down low, and then and sometimes you can get down low, and she calls it could be down, but then you can't get back up again, and you don't have the confidence in your legs, or your back, or whatever, or your knees, or your ankles. So that's what this workshop is about today. So let's look at going down a little bit lower and lower. So when we're coming from standing and we're wanting to go down to a lower, even sitting in a chair, the thing we want to do is this hip hinge. So we did it seated just now, but obviously the position of your legs is different. A hip hinge is exactly what it says on the tin. That's what it says on the tin. It is a hinge at your hips. If I turn completely sideways, so I call this a mini hip hinge. It's got no purpose other than I'm pitching forwards, I'm practicing this movement pattern. Maybe when you're brushing your teeth, you're holding this position here, not too low, not allowing that back to collapse, absolutely no way. It's not a bending of the knees, because that becomes a squat. It's just a hinge at the hips. But what happens is, when you send your butt back, and you're sending your butt behind you, so that pretty much your head stays at the same height all the way through. If I look down, I can see my toes. As I go back, because I'm sending my bottom back, I'll look down and still over my toes. As opposed to if you don't send your bottom back, but you pitch forward, very different, very, very different. That makes me grip my toes. It makes me feel a little bit vulnerable in my lower back. It puts the weight forwards over my toes, whereas this one sends the weight back into my heels, to the point where I feel I could quite easily sort of overbalance backwards. But it's relatively comfortable. You should be able to lift the whole of the front of your feet up and hold that position there. So that's our basic mini hip hinge, just to groove the pattern. When we're looking to come down to something lower, so I've got this lovely poof. I'm not even sure, I don't even know how you spell that word these days, but I've got that, but also I've found an everyday household object. So you might not have one of these lovely items, but I really like using that. I found a laundry basket, which is actually at the same height as that. So, in order to get down to the laundry basket, I'm going to have my legs nice and wide. Bear in mind we're doing this as an exercise. We're trying to just groove the movement pattern. Legs wide, so wider than shoulder width apart. 2 minutes to 2 minutes past the hour. Send the bottom back. There's the hip hinge. Notice the arms coming forward as a counterbalance, but I'm very aware of my chest being open. And then I'm reaching. Now I'm not warmed up enough to get all the way down there just yet, so I'm going to come back up again. And in fact, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use my poof, just because it's a nicer thing to land on. So you want to, if you're practicing this, you want to land on something that's quite sturdy. Maybe have it against the wall so that it doesn't move. So I know that this is a bit more sturdy than the laundry basket. So I'm sending my bottom back, reaching my arms forwards as a counterbalance. Maybe palms up will just help me to keep those shoulders down. And then I can sit down all the way. And then reversing it. Coming forwards, lifting the bottom off, same as we did when we were on that chair. Push down through the heels and come up. So sending the bottom back, knees over the toes, sitting down and coming up. Practicing that movement. So we're trying to get lower and lower. Ideally we want to be down into a full deep squat. Good boy, Bodie. It's alright, someone just rang the doorbell. I'm waiting for the dog to start barking. But he's not going to just yet. Great. Yeah, so coming down to something even lower. So the next thing that I thought of in my space was 2 yoga blocks. But this could be like you want to sit down on the step, a low step. So again, nice and wide with the feet. Send the bottom back. Now we're more into the realms of a deep squat. So now I've really got to think about this compression in the front of the hips. And also think about taking your knees towards your armpits. And then we're coming up. Now my feet are really quite wide because I've got tight Achilles. So a full-on deep squat, which is exactly what that is, I struggle with. So, but I'm okay if my feet are wide. I'm okay if I've got something under my heels. But a way to practice this is to use a door frame. And again, or door, not a door frame, a door. Come back to your lowest level. So hopefully you're fine with a dining room chair. Find something that's a little bit lower. It doesn't have to be hugely lower. Make that your next challenge. Open up the door, and you're going to be facing the door, and you can use either handle, either side. So I'm straddling, facing the door's in the centre, which is good because it's going to keep my back really nice and upright. I'm hanging on to the chair, and I've got my seat behind. I'm hanging on to the handles of the door, one either side, and I'm sending my bottom back, knees are over the toes, and I can easily sit down. I don't actually need the door for this, but you might be at that stage. So for me, if I want to practice my deep squat going all the way down, I would do the same thing, but I don't need that. And in fact, let's see how I am with that lower level. I did manage it just now. So again, relatively easy, and then standing. I'm going to take one of the yoga blocks away. So 10 minutes to, 10 minutes past, knees going over the toes, sending the hips down lower than the knees. Now I need to hang on to the door. And I can just about get there, and then trying to push my weight down through my heels, keeping my back up to come upright. Good. So, just showing you one more thing, one more little prop. So to keep those heels up, if that's your issue, you could have a cushion, but actually this cushion is quite squishy, so it doesn't really help me. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to roll a towel up. So a beach towel, rolled up, nice and solid. Putting the heels on there. Now miraculously, with my heels lifted, this is so comfortable for me. So if you were training, outside or whatever, and you're struggling with your deep squat, but you've got your trainers on, then that might be just that little bit of lift that you need. But with this towel rolled up, look at that. See, for me, that's now really, really comfortable. So my bottom is down, my heels are down, my heels aren't down, not down on the floor, but they're down onto the towel. I'm aiming knees for armpits, my chest is nice and upright and lifted, knees are over your toes. As you're coming up, here's the thing, push those knees out. Push those knees out, make your butt work, make the back line of your legs work. Fantastic. So, let's recap. 5 things that you need to be aware of when you're perfecting your sit to stand movement pattern, and if you want to be able to cookie down onto something quite low, and to be able to get up again without feeling that you're going to injure yourself, or without feeling that you're going to get stuck there. So just working on the dining room chair. So hip hinge, hinge from the hip, keep the rest of the spine neutral. So number 1 is hip hinge. Number 2, keep the alignment of your knees over your toes. Absolutely. Do not let ankles, knees collapse in. Try not to have your feet at a jaunty angle and your knees even just doing that just doesn't feel right. So that's number 2. Number 3, weight on your heels. That's going to come from your hip hinge and sending your bottom back. Number 4, maintain a neutral spine. So keep the chest open, send your bottom back, even when you're going all the way down nice and low. Let me just show you with my little cheating thing here. So I'm sending my bottom back, My back pretty much, just from now, is just gonna, my lower back is gonna round out a little bit, but that's fine. I'm pretty much in a neutral spine, as opposed to really collapsing. And number 5, try and keep the chest open, again, as opposed to collapsing. Great job. Thank you for joining me. That was Sit to Stand, Move Better Every Day. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you.